This is John McEntee here for the Rock Fantasy Files, and we have a real, let's say what Steve always says, a special edition of the Rock Fantasy Files. We have Karl Agell from COC. Did I do it right? I knew I was gonna. Okay, got it close, right? At least close.
Perfect.
Cool, because I forget some of my friends' names from like 30 years ago, so it's all good. But anyway, yeah, we have the COC episode. We're doing it. In recognition of the 30th year anniversary of the Blind album, which was a kind of a transitional album in COC's history. Most people should know COC kind of started off as a hardcore band in the Raleigh area, and put out albums like Eye for an Eye, which are I consider actually classics of that old that old kind of hardcore metal mix kind of stuff or whatever. And then and then they put out more of a more metal album, actually, Animosity, which was I really liked that when it came out. I was really blown away by it was a lot different than Eye for an Eye, but just you could kind of tell that the band definitely liked to not stay in any one place like too long or whatnot, and it was a heavy album. Then came Technocracy, which was another great album with actually another, I think all three albums had vocal lineup changes. Yeah, now I think about it. And then that was a great EP too. I actually really liked that album a lot. I was kind of bummed out that it wasn't a full length; it was just an EP. But then came Blind, which is really the album that kind of transitioned big time from the more hardcore roots of the band, what would become more of a stoner thing. I don't know what it's actually called, because I think COC, is one of the bands, like I'll say like Trouble, which kind of got like this stoner thing going early on, but I don't think anyone really knew what it was at the time. Just looking back on it, I would say that it has that kind of influence to it. But and it's really, like I said, the beginning of them getting massive popularity with the band. I think it was really took them to the next level. And so we're here with, I guess I should introduce everybody. We're here with Chris Alo, the infamous, and then we have DJ Will here. Nice to have you here. And then, of course, the one that put on the show, we have Tony Dio, and it's great to have you here, and we're happy that you put this together for such a special album. So just for the hell of it, I'll just start off, because I want to know, for Karl, I want to, how did you get into the band, and was the concept of the album to have it be so different than say Technocracy and the earlier stuff? What was the vibe in the band at the time?
Well, I found out about them I was in the Connecticut hardcore scene pretty much early 80s, and had my band Seizure from 83 to 87. And I was hanging out at the Anthrax Gallery in Stamford, and then later on one in Norwalk. And we were also well connected with the New York hardcore scene, and the Jersey hardcore scene. So I'd go down to shows at CB's and the Rock Hotel and the Ritz and wherever else, just, you name it, all these different venues. And I had first seen COC in 84 on the Eye for an Eye tour, coming through the Anthrax Gallery in Stamford, and was just like, hey, wow, this band is great. And then again, saw them in 85. And then my band opened for them in 85. And we became friends, in the sense of, back in the pen pal days, and sharing EPs, 7 inches and cassettes and stuff and whatever. And stayed in touch. And then I saw them again come through. I saw them multiple times, and my girlfriend was painting that skull on people's jackets, and it was just like ever present. And saw them again come through with Simon, and still like the band a lot. Actually, after Seizure, I got signed by that guy down there, Mr. Will Howell, and Brian Segal signed me. I was in the School of Violence, and got signed to Death Metal Blade, courtesy of Will right there. And
awesome.
Did 1 year, and that just
that too.
There it is, man.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm telling you all this is because it was kind of the COC was signed to the whole was signed on Animosity, was signed to Death, and Metal Blade, and there was all these kind of parallel things going on, and I myself was coming out of the scene, the hardcore scene, and starting to embrace the heavier end of it. You know, obviously we're massive Motorhead fans and you know, Venom fans and Slayer fans and, you know, Metallica fans. You know, all that stuff was just blending and swirling. Not everybody was going for that, but I certainly was, and I could see that COC was on a parallel track, and I had an affinity for that ever since, especially since Animosity was mind blowing. It's such a great album. You know, both Mike and Reed sang lead on that too, on several tracks, and I was just like, wow, this is super intense. But I still really liked it when Simon took over. So blah blah blah. Long story short, I left School of Violence, jammed with some other guys for a little bit, and then decided I wanted to do something else. And I happened to look at a ad in the Village Voice, classified back before the interwebs, you know, in the olden days, and saw this classified that said looking for a cross between Ian Gillan, HR, and James Hetfield. And then another one they put out was a cross between Alice Cooper, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember. They did it twice. I said, you know what? I love all of the above. Totally down with that. Totally get it. I have contact with the band before, mutual friends. So I just sent out the feelers. Is this for real, or am I just imagining this? And got word that they were looking for someone and had held auditions. So that's kind of how I, you know, Reed and the manager at the time, Karen Mason, they drove up to New York and met me, and then I went down for an audition, and it kind of just, it flipped and went well, you know.
Yeah. So they were already kind of on that path to kind of experimenting more with the style and the more.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the whole crossover thing. Was COC, DRI was another case doing it a different way. There's a lot of bands doing that. I mean, those are some of the kind of the marquee prevalent bands in the hardcore scene that were embracing the metal, and we were all like, you know what, let's grab that intent, that musicianship and that power, but then maybe pair it with the intensity of the hardcore thing, and also maybe some more meaningful lyrics, in my opinion. But that's just me.
And before the Blind album, you did some touring with them, right? Because I remember seeing you guys at CBGB's. I think you played with Ludacris or something. I can't remember the show. Maybe it was Crumbsuckers or something, but I remember it was at CBGB's. I'll never forget the show because I got beat up by the lower, what was it, skinheads in the Lower East Side of the show. So it's a show I'll always remember. And I actually talked to, I can't remember, it was one of the guys in the band. I was a young kid, and you guys actually gave me a T-shirt, but it was for a Technocracy tour, I think, but it was with you on vocals, if I'm
right. This is actually pre-Blind. It was COC's return to New York City with the new lineup, the first show. So I guess Reed was selling some backstock Technocracy stuff, but no, we played, and I got to tell you, I remember it clearly because I stopped the show, I think 3 times, and there was ambulances lined up outside at CB's. Yeah. And it was so super, super insane and violent. And we actually stopped the show at a certain point and didn't continue because you could literally see people getting mauled. Yeah. And actually there's Metal Maniacs. Remember Metal Maniacs used to have those little inset pictures going up the kind of the right side. It was the cover, and then they have these little inserts. And there's a photo of me singing that show with like a crowd, not only below me, but kind of around me on the stage. And if you look in the background, you see this kid with a chain wrapped around his hand coming down into the crowd behind me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And it was so violent and so crazy. We're like, okay.
Yeah, that was the most violent show that I ever been to, actually. And
yeah, it was bad.
They were really pissed off at me because I was wearing a DRI shirt, and I guess I wasn't true enough wearing a DRI shirt. And you know, they were pissed off that I decided to get into the pit, you know. But I don't know, I was a young kid, and it was just like, I want to enjoy the shit, you know, enjoy a band I love. But it's just funny that you actually remember that, because I remember it because, you know, I had some lumps after that, you know.
No doubt. I mean, so that was the thing. When I came aboard, we were trying to figure out our identity, and you know, I was on the same wavelength, and we were just figuring stuff out. And There was a lot of stuff swirling around, like, Phil Swisher brought in a lot of the kind of heavy rock, Sabbathy, Deep Purpley vibe. And then, Pepper was bringing a lot of the thrashier vibe, and it all swirled together. And obviously with, Reed's amazing drumming and Woody's, guitar playing. And it was just a weird swirl. It wasn't, I don't know if it was intentional. We were just kind of mashing up, like all the things that we loved and putting them together,
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, well, let's go to Tony here.
Yeah, I don't know how long Will or Chris has got here. If they want to go next with some
okay,
questions,
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, we can go with Will next.
Okay. Well, first off, Karl, good to see your face. Good to see that beard after all this time. And to sort of piggyback some of what Karl said regarding our history. Yeah, we met tail end of 86, 87. Are we frozen? Am I good?
Yep.
We can hear you. Yeah.
We can hear you. You're freezing. Video's freezing.
Video's freezing, but we can hear you talk.
Your audio's fine.
Well, that's technology for you. You live by the sword, die by the sword. So there you go.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah, my stint with Metal Blade Records was about 5 or 6 years. But during that time, I think around 86, 87, would hit up CMJ, a new music seminar, fly out. It was on a couple of panels and what have you. And I think around 80, it was 86 around that time. That's where I met. I had received a demo package from Stegman von Heinz of the band Full of Violence, and I liked what I heard. It was very hardcore. It was very gruff. Some Sabbath influence there, but I dug it. And at some point, I was able to go down to rehearsals and in New York, and that's where I met Karl. That's where we first met, and it was kind of interesting to come full circle 4 years later. School of Violence had dissolved. I eventually moved on to Capitol Records, and around 1991, there's a new COC lineup, and come to find out, the singer for School of Violence is in the band, and that was a big surprise because I think at some point you guys were out here in the West Coast shopping a deal. That was a deal. I think we'd all went to lunch or something like that. I know I hit that expense account at some point during the Capitol before this iteration of COC were signed to Columbia for the Blind record. But at some point, all out in the West Coast, we all had a good time, hung out, just got caught up, and things didn't pan out with Capitol Records with COC, but nonetheless, a hell of a solid production from John Custer. And incidentally, if I'm not mistaken, Karl, Blind was recorded, or the basic tracks were done at Baby Monster, where some of, or all of School of Violence, We the People, had also been recorded. Yes?
Yeah. So I actually tracked my vocals in a music building after the fact, not at Baby Monster, but I believe some of the tracking was done there. But I wasn't actually, that was like done earlier. And then a lot of that stuff had been brewing for Brian, actually, Childers, and then the previous singer. And then I came on board and put my stuff over the top of it, put it in a separate location. But yeah, we were in Baby Monster for 10 weeks. And the reason we went there is, besides being a great studio, Stevie McAllister, who was the front of house guy for COC going way back. He was also the bassist for Damage and the Swans at one time, and also front of house at CBGB's, and was considered like an additional member of the band. And he was well connected and a house engineer at Baby Monster, and highly recommended it. And we were all about going in and doing a loud to tape, 2-inch Studer tape with a Neve console, and just pushing some volume, kind of a hardcore old school approach. And I think it shows, but it was a tough process. We were literally there for 10 weeks, and we tracked and mixed there. And I can tell you, it was awesome, but it was also, I felt like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to being young and trying to please the label, trying to make sure Relativity was happy. We were cracking the whip and pulling some sick hours. And I remember one mix lasted for 52 hours, and people were getting sick. Wow. Literally 52. I'll never forget that.
How could you even focus?
It was ridiculous. Yeah. And everybody was required, because every hand, every finger had to be on every knob. There was no digital mix. It was crazy. This whole group circus effort. Everyone. Okay, no, you missed it. Punch. Do it again. So we were kind of losing our minds towards the end there, but I think the end result, that tension and dedication that was put in, it shows. So.
Yeah. And just being under, a bit of a time crunch, and with the time metrics involved with the duration of the recording, it's like, yeah, you got execs rolling in there, and it's like, we got to get this done by a certain time. There was no open-ended, let's say, release. Yeah, exactly. So different ways and means, at that time. So completely.
Yeah, and we were trying to make, we perceived it as the COC was, coming back, but obviously a new identity. We wanted to make sure we were doing it right, and not going to, blow our opportunity. So everybody knew it was pretty high stakes,
Oh, indeed. And a correction, as Karl had mentioned, Blind, of course, was on Relativity. The following release was on Columbia. So I sort of jumped. I gave him a year unnecessarily. So, but it was a big release nonetheless. It actually did as well as Wise Blood, but it was we get into the whole nuts and bolts of, let's say, some of the two key songs on Blind, obviously Dance of the Dead and Vote with a Bullet. Heavy radio airplay, pushed by Concrete marketing, and the rock, especially metal shows played it constantly. And, those two really propelled the awareness of this new COC record. It was definitely more metal tinged than previous outings, and it was the latest iteration, and it was a big deal. So I think Relativity, gave it their all at that time. And you got a video out of it too. So
yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think about it. I mean, was more of a metal album, but really Animosity was a real metal album too. I mean, it was hardcore influence, but man, I thought it was a metal album, I would say.
I will give you an addendum to that, John.
Mm-hmm.
I with you there, because a lot of that, obviously with Woody's guitar work, but a lot of it also can be contributed to the production of Bill Matoyer, who was our in-house engineer producer at Metal Blade Records. So he did everything. Lizzie Borden, Armored Saint, Fates went on and on and on. So he did stuff, and he was he was a fiend for guitars and and obviously heavy rock. So when he got his hands on everything from the Mentors to DRI and on down the list, it's like COC was just like this. COC was a layup because they came in just heavy as a 3-piece to begin with. So just add that little extra slab of Sabbath riffs. I mean, Bill, trouble was his thing in terms of those first 2 records. I mean, shit, that's Bill Matoyer. So you got to figure Animosity and Woody Weatherman's riffs with a glorious mwah, chef's kiss of the SG.
Yeah.
All hail the the Iomi and the diminished.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's go with Chris Alo.
Sure. Thanks, John. Thanks, Karl, for doing this. I'm a huge COC fan, and without question, Blind is my favorite era of the band.
Oh, thanks.
I wanted to ask you about touring. I was lucky enough to catch you twice in 1992. Looking back, I wish I could have seen you guys a lot more. I remember one show was at the Limelight with the Rollins band.
Yep.
And then there was another show. I can't remember where it was, but it was in the city, New York City. And it was part of the new music seminar. It was COC, Trouble, and I think Sacred Reich.
Yeah, and I think the Obsessed was on that or something, or it wasn't the Obsessed, or some version of that. I know Wino was there because when I saw him back in August, we talked about it. But it was at NYU, one of their music halls.
Yeah, both those shows were killer. The tour that I did see, and I always love, I remember vividly when seeing that version of COC. Like, you were so energetic and so relentless on stage. I never saw a lead vocalist lose more hair, because you were just spinning your head so violently. Like, I could see strands of hair coming out and falling on the stage. It was I've never seen another vocalist like that since. So I vividly remember that. But the tour that haunts me that I didn't see, because it didn't play the New York area, but it was supposed to, was Iron Maiden, Testament, and COC. So I was gonna say, how was that tour? Like, that would have been my dream tour. They were supposed to play the Meadowlands, and because Maiden kicked off the tour on a club date with Dream Theater, and Bruce Dickinson announced that they were gonna end the tour with you guys at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. But then it never happened, the New York, New Jersey show. So I guess two questions: how was the tour overall? How cool was it to be doing arenas? And then, if you remember why that New York, New Jersey show never happened.
You know what? We were, the little guys on this, so I don't know exactly why Jersey and New York didn't happen. I'm not sure exactly what went down with that. But I think they were pulled before we even got on, almost. Like, I don't even remember them talking about that, but I would have liked to have played there, trust me.
Yeah.
So it was pretty wild, because we were this, just getting on an arena stage opening for Maiden was kind of daunting, wondering how they were going to treat us and all that. And I have to say, they were the most sincere, nicest dudes ever. And were funny and cool. Their crew loved us. They had this PA boss, the guy who ran it. They toured with this giant production. And we had a sound check one time at the beginning of the tour. We had a 35-minute set. So we had to keep our shit together for 35 minutes every 24 hours, basically. And they were just really, really cool. And that guy dialed us in, and we just kind of went out, and they gave us full PA, right? Which is unheard of. They're like, "No, man, just turn it up." They loved Stevie. They were nice to him, because you know how that goes. I've been on other tours. I might name those bands that screwed us, but no, that put us at like half or third volume. Like, it was insane. But the Maiden was amazing, and they had nothing to fear, because they could get up there and they would play for hours and talk about energy. Those guys were just non-stop, and they were so good to their fans and really nice to us. It was funny, and they loved us. And for some reason, Testament had rubbed them the wrong way, so there was some tension there, like behind the scenes, but we'd walk in the room and they're like, "Hey," and they're super nice. So we loved it. It was incredible. I just remember the first show was actually Quebec City, and we got there and we got pushed off the bill because they were having trouble working out the biggest Eddie they'd ever had. And this thing literally was like Spinal Tap. The guys working levers behind the scenes, behind the stacks, and these two giant hands would come up and then go like this, and go like this, and over the guitar stacks. And because of that, we got pushed off the bill. That one on the first show, but we're like, okay, you know, whatever. And then the rest of it was just awesome, smooth sailing, all the way from Montreal to ended in LA. So
That's
I
awesome.
think you guys had a North Carolina show too. I think that got canceled as well. So that being on the East
To be
Coast,
pushed off the stage by an Eddie head than Blackie Lawless pogo stick mic.
well, actually, we played Blockbuster Pavilion in Charlotte.
oh, okay.
We did.
Okay. I was thinking it was Raleigh. I had a Raleigh show. I thought it got canceled. Maybe it got moved to Charlotte. Maybe that's what
Probably,
it was.
yeah.
I can't remember.
I mean, I could name, I can remember crazy stuff from every day of that tour, mostly good stuff. But one thing, playing Red Rocks was mind blowing. You know, and then when we played in Phoenix, it was 114 degrees on stage. And I remember those guys came out with fire extinguishers, trying to cool down the amps for the PA and stuff. I was literally playing in my like swimming trunks or something, shorts. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. But it was just a great tour. They treated us so well, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, if I could go back in time, I would definitely travel to see that show because, like I said, we didn't get it here in New York.
One thing we try to do, and I keep going and rambling on here, but one thing we did, we were, as punk rock dudes coming from that scene, we were concerned, okay, the arena is such a big disconnect. There's this giant gap with a barricade and the kids are seated far back. So we would do this one song at the end called Rather See You Dead, which was a band called Legionnaire's Disease from Texas, an old time band that COC used to cover during the Eye for an Eye era, you know, and we would stop, you know, before we do the song, we said, does anybody out there play bass? And we would have drag some kid from out in the middle of nowhere, you know, whoever it was, man, woman, child, whatever, and they would come up on stage and play this 2-note bass line with us, and it would kind of break the barrier of and make it so that we weren't so disconnected, and the crowd would go ape shit for that. So yeah, that was awesome.
That's awesome. Very cool. I remember you guys when you did the show at the Limelight with Rollins. If I'm not mistaken, I think you guys did Rise Above from Black Flag. If I'm not mistaken.
We did that for a while. Yeah,
Was
it was
that,
a little tribute.
Did you have to ask him beforehand, or
we just did it?
Okay.
No, he was cool with it. We we did that. Actually, it was funny. We did 6 weeks with Maiden, then a couple shows with like White Zombie or something, and then we did 5 weeks with Rollins. That was all one long summer. So that was the whole summer of '92 was action packed, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And twice on that tour that summer, we brought Wayne Kramer from the MC5 up. Once in Nashville with Maiden, and then once on the Rollins tour. That was pretty cool too. Dragging him up. Especially cool. A lot of the metal kids and the Maiden fans were probably like, "Who's that?" You know, but you know, it was awesome because we used to cover. We did Future Now with him because that was one of the outtakes off of Blind. So yeah,
cool. Awesome. Yeah. I was gonna say. So, Tony, you want to go next?
Yeah. Couple things I just wanted to ask about was so when you joined in, so Phil had already come in. Phil was in place. Pepper was in place. You were the last to come in and join, correct?
Yep.
Cool. So I know you guys did some demos over at Mike Gardner's studio because I had the demo tape. I still got the demo tape that was recorded from WKNC. You did an interview and they played all the 4 songs that you had recorded. Well, I think it was Dance of the Dead, and I can't remember what all the songs. I know Dance of the Dead was one of them, and then I know you had the MC5 cover that you did. And so those were done. That was pre-production. When did Custer come in and decide, okay, he's going to produce the album?
Well, we had met him. We become aware of him just as this kind of audio nut, you know, genius kind of guy, where he'd make these really crazy 4 tracks. And he worked with a lot of different bands. Obviously, he was a established guitar player too. But we kind of asked him to make this walk-on music for us back when, remember when everybody had an intro tape?
Intro tape, yeah.
Yeah, and he made this thing that was so over the top and insane. It was like almost hard to come follow it. It was so lofty, but it was really cool, and it showed that he was super creative. And at that point, we were just kind of built a relationship with him. Coming to realize that he was obviously really gifted in the studio. So, from my understanding is that we were his first big production, obviously of any size and any budget. He had recorded other bands locally down in Cary in his studio or whatever, but this was like the first real deal. So yeah, we just took it from there. And he was and probably still is, but he was a Queen aficionado, and was really into like stacking guitars and creating these incredible chords, and that whole school, like that kind of Queen production. Not that we sounded like Queen, but his whole angle on it, and had a lot of fun experimenting in the studio with the guitars and trying different things. And my vocals back then too, I'd have to quintuple or octuple the vocals. Like I had to sing along and over myself. We weren't bouncing tracks really. It was just a lot of stacking and a lot of crazy mix moves, production moves. So
Right. When the album came out, what was I'm sure you guys were playing some of the newer material before the album came out. I remember seeing you guys, I think, once before the album came out. But when it did come out, this album's such a different change of sound, sonically and musically. It's so heavy. Did any of the older fans give you any backlash over like, oh, you guys went metal or whatever?
Yeah, it was funny. Yes, there was some of that. Obviously, there was people that were. It was funny because they were just so into the old thing, and I guess they wanted that to continue. But what they failed to realize was that COC was morphing the whole time.
It was,
and I'm not saying it was an identity crisis, but it was always just this kind of evolution, and it was what it was. There was always Reed and Woody, and Mike came and left, came back, whatever. But it was just always, I think, a very experimental thing to begin with. If you just have to look at it that way. But yes, there's absolutely some blowback. And like, at one point I was like, I'd come out of the hardcore scene myself, but I kind of got this vibe that they thought I was some kind of heavy metal carpetbagger Yankee from up north or something. Like, I don't know. It was weird, but I was like, man, I came out of the same scene, evolved at the same pace as these guys. We're just going for it, and nothing stays the same. So I tell people, look, if you miss it, just put on the old records.
Yeah,
and you
plus
still
have to be honest.
You still play the old songs too live. You still did a lot of the old stuff live.
We did initially, yeah, we did absolutely, and which I tried to do the best version I could, of course, and do it justice. There was, come out and do Mad World or whatever, or, just those songs needed to be played, but obviously we did less of that as we did more of Blind, and those the last several tours we were really focusing on pushing the new record.
Another question I had for you was the artwork, the album artwork. There was different versions, like you had this, of course, this like is on the vinyl cover, but I remember the cassette and like the inside of the vinyl has this kind of odd art. How did that come about? Who came up with that?
That is the Bill Sienkiewicz piece. He was a famous graphic artist that we were fans of. He did like Stray Toasters and Electra Assassin. It was kind of right when the graphic novel thing was taking off, was starting to garner a lot of attention. And we just thought this guy was a total badass, especially since his stuff was very poignant and had a certain narrative and was critical. I wouldn't say political, but it was pointed. It made a statement. And we commissioned him. So we got the label paid him $5,000, and he created this mixed media piece that you're looking at that was photographed. And the idea was that was going to be the album cover, but vinyl wasn't really a factor right at that point. So we said it'd be tragic if we just shrank this down to a small CD thing. Let's create a poster of it. So one piece of it's showing, and then people can put it on their wall. But a lot of people never did that. So it was kind of like kind of a crime in some way that his full piece didn't get the attention it deserved, you know. But it is what it is, and people identify the burning dolls, but that's really just one section of a much more interesting piece of art.
Right. Another question.
Like, it doesn't fit in the CD, so fold it up. You know.
Yeah. Another question I had for you was the videos that you guys did. I mean, Dance of the Dead was the first one that came out. It was great. I remember, of course, you know, this iconically, it's been on Beavis and Butthead. So you've been on Beavis and Butthead. But they didn't give you too much hell. But the video was really cool. I think you told me. Yeah, that's right. I think you told me once you guys filmed it like at one of the old abandoned hospitals somewhere.
It was a tuberculosis sanatorium in Chicago that had been abandoned. It was really creepy. There was literally dead cockroaches all over the place. Like looked like something bad had happened, you know, and nothing had survived, not even the cockroaches. So yeah, we did that, and we picked the company that did it was called H-Gun, the video production team, and we picked them because they did Jesus Christ Pose for Soundgarden, and Head Like a Hole for Nine Inch Nails was the first thing we saw. And we wanted them to do something cool. Yeah, it was all right, man. You know, it's so hard. You know, there's things I like about it, things I don't like about it, but it is what it is, and you know, you can't change it. And they were really easy to work with, really cool people, and you know, it gave people a first actual glimpse because it's all pre-internet, you know, so it was a chance for people to actually say, hell, that's what they look like, you know.
Yeah.
That's the good old video scene. It was good for that, at least.
Yeah, it got a lot of airplay too on MTV. And Vote with a Bullet, was done at your practice place?
No, that was shot at another abandoned place, an abandoned synagogue in Manhattan, in New York. Okay. And obviously I don't sing that song, so they had to find a role for me. So I did this kind of Travis Bickle thing where, you know, I was the assassin and all this stuff, you know, and worked in this little storyline. And it was funny. There's a scene where this kind of, the family man is freaking out and he shoots this TV screen, kind of like Elvis. And it was funny. It was an actual service revolver, and one of the cops on the shoot, it was not legal at all. And they convinced him that he was like, yeah, fuck it, and shot his gun into the TV for us, you know. You know, then it was just one of those things, you know, he was like, oh, I don't give a shit, I'll do it, you know. You know, just one of those old New York cops didn't give a fuck. He's like, I'll do it, you know. And so that was a cool little story on that. But, and you know, weird fact, I had to shave my chest and stomach for both videos for some goddamn reason. The first, it's so stupid. The first one, they decided that we're going to bring me in and create this fake thing where I'm in the hospital gurney and they're ripping me apart and pulling this flesh off me. And of course, that was partially censored by MTV. So they had to pull some of that. There's a little bit of it. It was considered too graphic. So I'm like, oh, great, I did that for nothing. And then they decided my Travis Bickle character in the Vote with the Bull thing was going to have a corrosion skull painted or tattooed, you know, this giant thing. So they shaved, this is, you know, shave me down, do this fake tattoo on me. And then, of course, I had to answer every kid who asked me to show the tattoo on tour. And I'm like, I was so embarrassed. I'm like, it's part of the storyline. I didn't really do that. I guess I'm a total fucking poser.
It's fake.
You know, yeah. I was like, I was going with the flow. Probably shouldn't have done that, but yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely Blind's it's an iconic album. It's definitely there's such a large fan base for that album that love that period of Corrosion of Conformity. You know, it's just it is what it is, man. It was a period, and you guys made a brilliant record, and I'm glad to see that people still are into it today. You know, and here we are 30 years later, and we're getting ready to do a 30th anniversary on vinyl coming out. The one I showed a while ago was like one that came out a few years ago. I think Prosthetic put it out, but I think Century Media, somebody's putting it out this time.
Yeah, that's right.
With extra tracks. Now, is it only coming out on vinyl? Is it coming out on CD as well, or do you know?
I don't. I know. I just really know about the vinyl. My buddy Mike Gitter. I'm sure you guys know Mike, or some of you guys, maybe all of you know him, and he got me going and involved in it. So it was cool. It dragged me into the thing, and I was actually able to drag. I had the negatives from the very first photo shoot we ever did as this lineup in 1989. So some of those pics are in there.
Cool.
Very rare things that actually photo shoot done by Woody's mom. So that's cool. So some of those are in there, and then a lot of outtakes and demo things.
The demos that I mentioned.
Hard to dig up. The cassette stuff from Mike Gardner was,
Yeah, cool.
some of that was not easy to find. So.
Mhm. Well, I would have loaned it to you if you needed it, man. You know, I had it with the interview. But it probably wouldn't have sounded that great.
No, you have everything, I think. So I probably
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, some stuff anyway.
No. That's
When we all know, you know, you guys party company, and you went on to other things, and they went on to other things. But when they were working on Deliverance, was there anything that you were involved with before they ended up on that record, or was it just mostly just demos?
No, I was in the studio for 5 weeks. There's a version of me singing that album that will never.
Wow.
Wow.
We need to hear this. I need to come to your. I need to come to your
Who
house
has the
and you to play
master from that?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Reed had access to it, but he is of course no longer with us. And I don't know that maybe other parties involved probably don't want to have it out there. So I don't know. I can't say that for sure. Who knows? But there are versions out there. The song titles are different, obviously. Some of the stuff, some of the songs are sketches and all that, so to speak, or versions that were evolving in the studio. But yeah, it is what it is. Obviously, it was not the funnest divorce, but or parting, but yeah, there's material in there for sure somewhere.
Do you mind me asking why you left or was exited the band, or is that too much?
I was asked to leave.
Okay.
So, I mean, ultimately, that's a long question. And I don't ever, talking about it, I don't want to sound like sour grapes and all that stuff, but Pepper always wanted to be the singer. He had auditioned as the vocalist 8 months prior to me getting the gig because he was already in place. Yeah. And I think there was always that tension that, and that he wanted to do it. And I know when the band jumped to Columbia, there was a lot of people on the Columbia side that felt that Vote was the strongest direction and stuff. But I'm not saying I'm in I'm perfect and blah, blah, blah. It just shit happens. It's a band. You guys know there's a lot of crazy group dynamics and, things happen.
Everybody was younger.
Yeah,
Well, I was going to save this question till later, but I was just curious going into the band, being with, a band that was kind of already established and the relationships already established. Was it difficult to integrate yourself with it?
Not really, because they had always kind of been evolving, like I said earlier, and they were really nice guys. Everybody was really easy to get along with. I lived with Reed. We hit it off, had a lot of stuff in common. Woody and Phil were a lot of fun. I was, and initially we were all friends and getting along really well. So I think, Pepper was new to the band. Phil really had never been on a recording. So in a sense, he was new. He'd only picked up some of the Technocracy tours when Mike left. But, we were all kind of coming together. It was like our getting the same start, essentially, with Blind and what led up to it and what came right after. So I never felt like uneven like that. Obviously, Reed and Woody, they were the founding fathers, so we were, Reed obviously had a lot of say, but he was also extremely connected and as much a manager as a drummer. So, but we got along really well. So it was kind of us against the world, I think, at that point,
Yeah, that's cool. I want to go
Question.
with Will next.
All right. Question for you, Karl, to sort of tail end of what you were saying. When you'd done the, it's like the Blind era a few years ago, just with a different lineup.
COC
players.
Blind.
Yeah.
Did you cross paths? Oh,
I'm sorry, you broke up on the last
yes,
thing.
COC Blind. Did you cross paths with Reed around that time? And in part 2 to that, were you able to reconnect with him? That's why I was asking. Okay. Test.
We hear you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if I should speak fast or drag it out like molasses.
And we can hear you.
Right. So, Karl, did you cross paths with Reed during your COC Blind era group? And part 2 to that, were you able to connect with him before his passing?
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, so this is how it happened. We did, my band Leadfoot, which was Phil Swisher and I started as a post COC thing.
Get on.
Well, yeah, exactly. When our friend Ivan from Confessor died, there was a benefit for his widow
Ivan, yeah.
at the Lincoln Theater. And at that time, we decided that it was Leadfoot with Reed on drums. We were going to do a tribute to him, and we just came in and did, I think, four songs, and Confessor played as well, and it was sold out and it did really well. But I had only once, and then after that, one time I did this one show. It's the only time I did it with a different drummer. My friend Bill Egan, who plays in the Bleeding Hearts and a lot of other bands, he stepped in as the drummer, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing called Karl Agell's Blind," also at the Lincoln Theater, a big venue in Raleigh, and it garnered a lot of interest, and people showed up for it because we just said, "Hey, let's try this out, play these songs." And Reed got a wind of it and was like, "I very much want to be a part of this." So Reed he played every single COC Blind thing except for one show. And we did it in 2009. We did some dates, including having Righteous Fool, his other band, the 3-piece, and Mike Dean, Woody, and him. Not Woody, Jason Browning come in and do that, who also was the original COC second guitarist. But it was like Scott Little from Leadfoot playing guitar, and Reed, and then we brought Jerry Barrett in also, who used to play bass for HR from the Bad Brains, his solo stuff. So we did. We tried in 2009. We tried it again a little bit later, and then the biggest thing we did was in 2015 with Cavalier Conspiracy and Death Angel, and we also did 70,000 Tons of Metal right before that, and it was well received, and we did it really well. Everybody felt we were doing it justice. I could still hit all the notes, no problem. So it wasn't just a failed attempt and a sad attempt. I felt really good about it.
Yeah, I caught that show at the Webster Hall in New York City, and it was fantastic. It was amazing to see you and Reed on stage again playing those songs. It was amazing.
So yeah, thank you, and it was really fun to do. But he was torn. He was serving 2 masters, I think. He was back and forth with COC proper. Like the Corrosion of Conformity proper, and was trying to do both things. We were never trying to usurp them. We were just playing an album that never gets played, other than Bow with a Bullet, and that's fine. But I think a lot of people missed out on it, and even got hip to Blind after I was long gone, So it was just kind of a fun project. You know, we were hoping to keep doing it, do it again, but obviously Reed passed away. You know, it's really, really sad. And I was definitely very connected to him leading up to that. And it was material that we were writing together. He wrote like 3 songs, and Scott Little was very much involved with that, and that stuff is still out there, you know. So I don't know if that's going to see the light of day or not. We'll see, you know.
Well, definitely encouraging to hear, because, you know, known him a long time, and you know, it was just horrible news all around. You know, he had his demons, but the important thing is, as a musician and being kind of the focal point of COC for such a long period, and so many different lineups, glad to hear that you connected. And obviously, yeah, the COC Blind had a great run with, you know, giving it a go as you did these handful of times. So I'm happy to hear that, because I was not entirely clear of how all that worked out. There's too many instances where there's band members that go out and do lineups. You know, I'll just think with like a lot of the hair rock bands. You know, there's like 2 Rats, 2 Great Whites, 2 LA Guns, 55 versions of Rat. I can't keep up, but it gets to the point where one person owns the name, another person owns a part of it. It's all these different levels of, well, we're going to continue to put the brand out there because we were part of it during a point in history. So let's keep diluting that brand because we still have a piece of it. And I'm glad to hear that COC Blind was not that. I was never clear about that, but thank you for sort of setting the record straight, and also that Reed took part of it.
He was very much a part of it. It was, and in fact, we did that Teenage Time Killers thing too. It was that one sold out show at Fonda Theater in Hollywood, and that was you know, he was able to go into Dave Grohl's studio, and Mick Murphy and him, and you know, like had a who's who of singers come in, Corey Taylor, Randy Blythe, you know, Leaving from Fear, just on and on, you know, Cliff from Blast, you know, just there's tons of people. So, you know, he was very much in the spirit of trying things out and making things happen. And that was kind of what Blind was about, just kind of the sheer joy of playing those songs that he wasn't able to play with the other lineup, you know, and it was a good time. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, me too.
Cheers
and
to
actually,
Reed Mullen.
The Teenage Time Killers project, that was actually the last time I saw and connected with Phil, and at the shows that, yeah. He broke up. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't hear John speak anymore.
Yeah, I can't hear you, John.
Now,
It's me.
Now it's your turn, John, to get the Wi-Fi zap.
Yay, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I wanted to go with Chris Alo now.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I got to run in a couple minutes, Carl. But what are you doing musically now? What are you up to?
Well, thank you for asking. No, I got a new band called Lie Heavy. You know, Lie Heavy, L-I-E, and then Heavy, Lie Heavy, and we are pre-production right now for an album. Have the whole thing written, and it's Graham Fry from Confessor, who was also on the first 2 Leadfoot albums, and then came back to Leadfoot afterwards. But he's of Confessor fame initially, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
And we have TR Gwynn on there, who after Phil parted company with us in Leadfoot, there was Paul Walls, and then TR came on and has kind of been the go-to guy with Leadfoot. Leadfoot's still going. Technically, he's never dead. We reserve the right to book a show or play stuff or write stuff if we want to. But the new thing is I'm putting a lot of effort into. So then we have JD Dennis, Jeff Dennis, and he used to actually be in a band called The Point back in the day. and then which was like kind of a glorious hard rock, almost hair metal band. But he's a really heavy hitter. And then his last big run was with the Backsliders, this kind of alt country thing that was a pretty big band around here and toured nationally too, and in those circles. So, and he's a serious, hard-hitting motherfucker. So we're really glad to be playing with him. And I'm looking forward to sharing some demos with you guys if you want. And we're just going to be shopping it soon, I guess. We'll see who bites, or if we have to put it out ourselves. So,
Yeah, I just saw them last week, man. They were great. They played with I Hate God and
I missed that show.
Pat last week. It was a great show.
Bummer.
Hey,
I wish I would have.
Quick question regarding these projects. Karl, did you do anything more with King Hitter after the EP several years back?
I love that EP. I love how it sounds. I love that band.
yeah.
We were just fraught with lineup changes.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, so
That's
that was a tough thing to contend with. And just, you get older, it's harder to deal with some of that stuff and some of the drama that comes with that, and to keep patching things together in that sense. It was nothing crazy, but it was just the flow kind of went away, But there was a lot of material written after that EP, a lot of really great songs, especially written by Scott Little. So who knows? We may come together and do some version of that too. I wanted that to keep going, but it's just a time and a place. Sometimes you can only flog a mule, to make it go so far. Of course, saying that's probably not politically correct, but I don't flog mules. But you know what I mean. Maybe I beat dead horses. I don't know.
You know what you mean, but I know this story all too well. But well, hopefully it'll see the light of day at some point, or in different forms or whatnot, because it was a fun EP. So for anyone who doesn't have it, check it out. It was
Thanks, man.
good energy on that, the EP.
Yeah, I'm definitely proud of it.
So cool.
It was probably the closest thing to Blind that Karl has done. It was more that style, the heavier style. I thought it was a really good album or EP.
Cool. Yeah, I think you guys will dig the new stuff too. It's has its feet in the Sabbath thing too, and the Doom thing a little bit.
Yeah, it's very doomy. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Awesome.
it's a swirl. Somebody called it like one of the bartenders at the poorhouse said it was like Nazareth fronted by Danzig, and I was like, okay, well,
I could hear that. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't know, but it was funny. But
I like it.
Like Miss Misery Nazareth, the heavy Nazareth.
Yeah. No, man, love hurts, Bo. No, love hurts all night long.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the ad. I used to have a poster for the Blind record, and the tagline was "If Public Enemy made a Black Sabbath record." And I always thought that was I don't quite know if I agree with that, but
No,
that was a
part of the
quote on
marketing
the
thing.
ad.
That was part of the marketing thing. They were trying, they were trying to push us like that. And the guy, actually, interestingly enough, the guy who made the Vote with a Bullet video was Eric Mazza, who made the By the Time I Get to Arizona video for Public Enemy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Same year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that song came out on the Public Enemy album here. Crazy. What was it? Fear of a Black Planet, I believe, or Strikes Back, whatever the hell. So didn't know that connection. Cool.
Well, I will say one thing. There was somebody who had the bright idea when we were doing the Blind thing or touring in the UK. There was an election, and somebody at the label over there said, "Hey, let's drop a vote with a bullet flyers from helicopters over Parliament."
Wow.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's probably not a good idea."
Yeah.
I get it. I get attention, but I also don't want to become, get locked up in some English dungeon. So,
Yeah. That's great.
Okay. Well,
so I'm glad.
I'm sorry.
Good
Go
thing
ahead.
it didn't happen.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, does anybody else have any other questions?
Nope.
Anything else you'd like to bring up at all? No. What about you, Carl? Is there anything that you'd like to let us know about that we haven't touched on that might be important? Because you probably know your life better than we do.
Oh, well, when I was a young boy, no. Sorry, you guys got about 17 hours. No, I'm just, you know, I'm really proud of my history with the band. You know, it is what it is. It's a moment. And I think a lot of cool forces came together in those 10 weeks that generated that record. And a lot of funny behind the scenes stories of just our living situation and what we went through making it and the stress, but all of that came together to create something really special, I think, and meaningful. And I've had people come up to me and tell me that record in particular, the lyrics, the delivery, you know, had a life-altering effect on people. And that's mind-blowing to me. Like I did that, you know, we did that. That's no greater compliment. So I'm absolutely very, very proud of my time in that. You know, and that's I couldn't ask for anything more than that it left and continues to leave a serious impression. And that above all, it's musical too. It's listenable, and it has transcended a lot of genres and a lot of time. It still holds up sonically. So that's really cool, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's been a lot of fun talking and chatting about old COC stuff and beyond. And I guess I'll do my normal closing where I just say to, you know, support, you know, record stores, like old school record stores, you know, or support bands directly by buying stuff on their site. Just to make it clear, the reason why I do this at all is because I wanted to support the Rock Fantasy Record Store and Steve Keeler. And you know, I think it's very important to, you know, try to keep that that hub of, you know, music alive. And people that are doing record stores now are doing it more for the love of music. It's not a big money maker and stuff. So if you can support the small guy, if you know, unless you have to go to, you know, the big box stores, but support the small guy when you can. And you know, just like and subscribe to the channel. And again, thank everyone very much. It's great to have all you guys here, and all the best to you, Carl, and to the rest of you, Chris, Will.
Thank you.
And Tony. I really appreciate it. Take care. See you next time.
Thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, everybody.